Inventory routes have always been a little bit confusing in Odoo. The default routes that are configured out of the box are fine in most cases. If you have a simple business, an e-commerce, someone buys something, you ship it to them, then the standard routes are probably absolutely fine for you. But if you need something that's slightly different to the norm, that maybe diverges from what Odoo's standard configuration is, then getting the routes right in Odoo can be very complicated. In this video, we're going to dig deep into how the routes work in Odoo so that if you do need to diverge from the norm, you can do so with confidence. I'm El Bristow for Glow, and this is Everything in Odoo. So first of all, what are routes in Odoo? Routes are how Odoo knows how stock moves through your warehouse. Now, that could be very simple, a one-step shipping procedure. So a customer buys something, a stock picking is produced, and someone goes, they take it from the shelf, put it in a box, put a label on it, and send it straight out, all in one go. But if you've got a larger warehouse, a more complicated warehouse layout, it's important that Odoo knows that it's pulling stock from the right places, that stock is going through the right steps so that it can go out the door with the right products in the right box going to the right customer. So Odoo provides a lot of configuration options to allow you to specify the route that stock should take through your warehouse. And that's what we're going to be looking at in this video. How do we tell Odoo what it should be doing with our stock? In Odoo version 19, a small change was made to the default routes that are configured with a new installation, but that small change has quite a significant effect. In older versions of Odoo, the default routes were pull rules, which means that Odoo created a demand at the end of the chain and then went back through the process to pull the stock from the various different locations in your warehouse. Now, in a one-step process, that makes absolutely no difference. But in a three-step process, where you pick things and then someone else packs them and then someone else ships them out the door, that process could get quite cumbersome, especially if someone picked the wrong thing and they didn't discover it until they were trying to pack it, or something along those lines. Going back through the chain was very difficult. In Odoo version 19, the switch was to instead use push rules. So Odoo instead starts at the beginning of the chain with the pick phase, and then once the pick is complete, it will move on and create the picking for the next step, the pack phase, and then once that's complete, it creates the out or the shipping stage, the shipping pickings. So this is a very different process, although it's technically still doing the same thing. The trouble was that the way they've changed the system means that the routes and the rules behind the routes work slightly differently to how people were used to in the past. And let's face it, people in the past probably didn't really understand how they worked properly anyway. So let's have a look at what Odoo is now doing in version 19 and how these routes actually work. Fair warning, this one is going to be a complicated video. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible, but we've had to do a lot of research into working out exactly what Odoo is doing. So there is going to be a part of this that is quite complicated. Please try and bear with us. We are keeping it as simple as we can. Before we do that, this video is sponsored by, well, no one. We're funding this video ourselves, but who are we? We are Glow. We are Odoo partners, so we are authorized and licensed by Odoo to be able to help customers to implement Odoo, to support Odoo, to customize Odoo to their needs. But we also have a full IT support team that handle things like server support, printer support, remote support, phone support, lots and lots of different things. Pretty much anything you can think of that's IT related, Glow have staff that are able to support you with that. We also have a Cyber Essentials team that can help your business to become certified with the Cyber Essentials system to make sure that you're doing everything in the most secure and safe way to protect both you as a company and your customers. If you're interested in any of these services, come and check out glow.systems. The link is in the description. Send us a message and we'll be happy to discuss how Glow might be able to help you in your business. Now back to what we were talking about. So first things first, welcome to our demo database. We're going to have a look at how the routes work. So in order to do that, we need to turn on the multi-step routes options in Odoo. They're not turned on by default. So if we search for route, we see here we have multi-step routes. We tick that. We hit save. That will also turn on the setting for locations so that you can have various different stock locations in the warehouse. We're not going to have a look at the locations specifically in this, although we will be modifying them slightly. We're more focusing on the routes and the rules behind the routes. But all of the things that we're doing can be told to point to a specific location in your warehouse, a specific shelf, a specific rack, a specific aisle in the warehouse. All of that is possible in Odoo, but that's a little bit too much detail for this video. So we're going to try and keep it simple and just look at the routes themselves. Now that we've activated multi-step routes in inventory, in configuration, and in warehouses in our warehouse, we now have some options for how we want to handle our shipments. The default is one step incoming, one step outgoing. We're going to only look at the outgoing for the moment, although the things we're looking at will apply to the incoming shipping as well. But we're going to turn on three-step outgoing shipping. So this would be one person goes into the warehouse and picks the goods off the shelf, maybe a forklift truck or in a trolley or something along those lines. They bring them to a packing zone. A second person takes those goods, packs them in a box, and then passes them to whoever is handling the shipping side of things. The shipping person then will, I don't know, print a label, stick it on the box, make sure it's going to the right person, organize with the courier, get the tracking details, and send the box out of the door. Three distinct steps, which would happen very frequently in a large warehouse operation. When we save this, Odoo will instantly go away and modify the routes that have been configured. And if we have a look at the routes here, we can see we have a route for receive in one step because we didn't change that. And we now have deliver in three steps, pick, pack, and ship. Let's have a look at this route and see what it does. We can see that this route is applied to the warehouse, so it's a default route for the warehouse itself. It can also be applied specifically to product categories. So if we have a specific product category, we can give them different routes that they follow. But here is what's most important, the actual rules that are being applied. So the first rule is to pull from stock. Now, this is a pull rule, but you'll notice it's slightly different to how pull rules used to be set up. If we look at this one, it is a pull rule. It uses the pick operation type, but the source location is stock and the destination location is customer. Now, there are steps in between that, and pick does not fulfill that complete route. And you'll notice what the description of this route is. When products are needed in customers, we need to send something to a customer. Picks are created from WH stock to fulfill the need. The products will be moved towards the packing zone as specified from the pick destination. So the pick operation type says from stock to the packing zone. So this route, this particular rule knows that there's got to be something else coming after that initial pick has been processed. So it knows that this is a multi-step route. However, the original target is stock and the ultimate goal is customers. It is going to a customer location. That helps Odoo to then process the following rules. So the next rule is a push rule. A push rule means when products arrive in this case, packing zone, then this operation type will create pickings to send them to the output zone. And likewise, we have another one which takes it from the output and sends it to the customers, therefore completing the route. This is the standard three-step shipping route, and this is how it works within Odoo. But what is this actually doing under the surface? What happens is when you confirm a sales order, Odoo knows that that sale is supposed to be going to a customer. So what it will do is it will look through your list of routes, it will come down and it will find a route that contains a rule that has the destination of customer. So here, this one has a rule that is going to a customer location. So Odoo knows that this is a rule that can send stock to a customer. If it finds multiple routes that could send it to a customer, it will always pick the first one in the list. So in these routes here, the order is very important, and you can drag and drop these with the little handle here to assign their priority, but it would always pick the first one that meets the criteria. So if you have a specific difficult situation, getting the order of your routes right is very important, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So once Odoo has found the appropriate route, it will look at the rules and it will apply the first rule that it comes to as the overarching rule. So this will create the initial picking that is attached to our sales order, and only one picking will be made. Once that picking is confirmed, then the next one can be made using the push rules. So that's the very basics of how these routes are actually being processed in Odoo. There is an exception to that rule. On a sales order, there is a column on each of the lines for routes, and you can, when adding a product to a sales order, select a different route, providing you have a route configured that is applicable to sale order lines. So for example, if we were to create a route that was applicable on sale order lines that did something different, for example, drop shipping, which is a default option that you can turn on in Odoo, that route can be applied on one line of the sale order, so that Odoo knows that instead of expecting the stock to arrive, it knows it's got to order the stock, and that will go straight to the customer. There's a lot of other options that you might need to take into consideration. For example, if you sell through a subcontractor or something like that, you have to send things to a subcontractor. The subcontractor does something, sends it back to you, and then you ship it to the customer. Odoo supports subcontracting as well, and you can turn that option on, and that will create a new route that you can select on the sale order line if you want to say that Odoo needs to follow this specific route for this sale order line. But for the moment, we're going to have a look at more complicated rules and routes that you might need to configure, and how you can get Odoo to work slightly differently to how it is expected to work. Let's say, for example, that you have an option to ship products to international customers. And in the case of international customers, the stock has to go through a slightly different set of steps. For example, it might need to go through a checking process, or it might need to go through and have a different report added to the box, maybe a commercial invoice or something like that. And you want to create a step in your route that will allow your staff to process that, and that you know that that step has been processed. Let's have a look at how you might be able to configure that in Odoo. So the first thing you would need to do in this situation is to create a new customer location. If we have a look at locations and we turn off this internal filter, we will see that we have this customer's location, which is of location type customer. Now, if we have a look at this, we can duplicate this and we can make this something for, let's say, international customers. So we have a new customer location. So when stock is going out the door, it could go to two different types of customer. Now remember that I said when you confirm your sales order, Odoo will find the first route in your list that goes to a customer location. Now that's any customer location. So we have to make sure that we have very specific rules set up so that Odoo knows which route it needs to follow. We're going to create an extra route specifically for these international customers. We're going to base it on the 3-step shipping. So we're going to duplicate the 3-step shipping. We're going to take this out and we're going to say deliver international. That's what we're calling it. And we can save that. We need to make sure that it is on the correct warehouse. Duplicating doesn't populate this warehouses field. So we need to make sure that that is selected. Everything else currently is the same. It has created 3 new rules. These are not the same rules. So let's have a look at these. So for the destination location here, this actually wants to be international customers. This name here is irrelevant, but you can change it if you want to. I'm not even going to bother. So we know that the ultimate destination location for this route is going to be international customers. We can save that. Equally, this last step down here needs to go to international customers. However, we want to inject a step here that before it is shipped to the customer, it goes to a different location where someone can check it. So let's create a checking location. So international checking location. It's going to be part of our warehouse. So it's going to be a child of our main warehouse location. That allows it to be still considered in stock and in the warehouse for valuation purposes. We don't need to change anything else on there. Let's go back to our route, so our international route, and we're going to add a new step in here. This is going to be checking route. It's going to be a push rule because Odoo is using push rules now. It's going to be an international transfer. Now, by default, that will populate this with from stock to stock. That's not correct in our situation, so we're going to change that. It's going to go from output, so it's already been picked, it's already been packed in a box, and it's gone to the output location. So it's going to go from output to our international checking location that we have just created. Everything else stays the same here. Let's move that rule up slightly, and we need to change this final rule so that it, instead of pulling directly from output, it's going to go to international checking. There we go. So this is configured. However, it's not quite complete. Remember what I said. If we look at our routes, Odoo will come down this list and find whichever route comes first in the list that goes to a customer location. It's going to find this one first. So it will always process this route first. If we move this up, now it will always do this one first. And that's not correct either. So how do we do this? We need it to differentiate between these two routes based on a very specific set of circumstances. This is where a hidden field comes into play, and we're going to need to enter debug mode. If we do Control K and we type debug, we can activate debug mode. In debug mode, we get access to a few extra options and a few hidden fields that you can't normally see. The particular hidden field we're interested in is in contacts. Now, we're going to create a new contact. We're going to call this, I don't know, International Customer Limited. And let's have a look for this hidden field. In the Sales and Purchases tab, there is a section here called Inventory, and it says Customer Location. Now, we can specify what the customer location is for this specific customer. This field only shows when you're in debug mode. We're going to say that this is an international customer, so it should be treated using the international customer's route. However, when we go back to the routes here, Odoo is still going to process these in order. So yes, this one is for the international customer, but it won't reach this one because this one already ships out to a customer location, so it will favor that one. So we need to filter who is being processed using this rule, and we do that in the route configuration itself. So when we get to this point here, the output point for international checking, we have here, again, in debug mode, a domain that we can specify to say which customers will apply for this particular route, or rather which pickings will apply for this particular route. We're going to add a rule to this, and we're going to call this, there is a field in here called final location. Final location is set on the picking when the order is confirmed based on that customer location field that we just set. It doesn't do anything by itself, but it is a field that is set that we can now look at as part of this search domain. So if the final location is equal to international customers, then this particular rule needs to fire. We can save that, and because this route is above the default route in the list of routes, it will find this one first, find that it goes to a customer location, but when it's trying to match the rule to create the next picking, it will find that it can't do it for all of our customers. It can only do it for ones who have that international customers field set. Let's see how this works in practice. Okay, so I've skipped a bit here. I've set up a specific situation that will show how these different routes are working. I haven't changed any of the settings in the inventory module or to the routes or anything like that. What I've done is I've created another customer, which is local customer. They don't require the international shipping. Their customer field, their customer location field is set to the normal customer, not international customer. Other than that, these two sales are identical. They both have one product on them, which we have in stock. It has the same price, etc., etc. No routes are set on the sales order line. We are just looking at how the customer affects the route. So if we confirm this order, so this is a local customer, we would expect this to go through the normal route, even though our new route is above it in the list of routes. Let's have a look what it's done. It's created our initial delivery, which is a pick. This is the first pick stage. We can validate this picking. It will then create our next transfer. Our next transfer is a pack. This is correct. We validate this. It goes away and it creates our next transfer. This is now an out. This is send the packed item out to the customer. That is correct for a normal customer in our system. Let's validate this, and that order is processed and done correctly. We go back to our orders now and have a look at our international customer. Let's see how this is different. Let's confirm our order. It's exactly the same so far. It's created our delivery. We've got a pick, so we're picking it from the warehouse and sending it to the packing zone. We validate that. Next transfer, it's coming from the packing zone and going to output. That's correct. We validate that. Now, the next transfer is an internal transfer that takes it from output to our international checking location. So we can validate this. It is an extra step in the process. We go to our next transfer, and now we get the out, which is coming from the international checking and sending it to our customer, and we can validate that. And now that has gone through the different route, the different process, all based on that customer field that is set on the customer's record. So it is very complicated. It's very tricky to get right. But if you know what you're doing, you can make Odoo do some very, very specific things with your stock as it passes through your warehouse. So hopefully this will give you the information that you need to be able to set up your routes for your company. So hopefully I have explained that well enough for you to understand. This is very complicated. There is a lot of detail, and there are some exclusions to these rules that it's very difficult to highlight in a video like this. If you're currently struggling with setting up stock routes in your warehouse, then please feel free to give us a call. We will be more than happy to assist you in making sure that your stock flows correctly through your warehouse. I'm El Bristow for Glow. This has been everything in Odoo, and we will see you in the next video.